Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes review for Tomb Invader. No, you did not hear wrong. This is the Asylum's similarly titled ripoff of Tomb Raider. And they've got the basic premise here, alright? You have a female archaeologist, alright, who's going into tombs and dealing with perils. And if you're looking for the sort of made-for-TV version of Tomb Raider, I gotta tell you, they've nailed it. The interesting thing about this movie is that despite the fact that it's ripping off the Tomb Raider movie, and there are some obvious influences there, the larger influences are actually from other sources and even other video games. The main character is named Alabama Channing. And if you needed more clues that she was based on Indiana Jones besides the state name in her name, she immediately invades a tomb, steals a relic, runs away from a big rolly thing, and gets betrayed by the locals. Just straight off the bat. This is not the first scene in the movie. I should point out, the very first scene in the movie sets up the backstory for why Alabama Channing is the way she is, and it involves her mom. Her mom, who is also an archaeologist, who is also searching for things in the far-flung reaches of the world. And this happens 20 years before the main events of the movie. And I'm only bringing it up because it is the most woodenly acted thing in this movie. And I'm comparing this to the rest of these no-name actors in an Asylum film. Okay? There's bad acting all over the place, but somehow they just packed like a big old glob of that bad acting in one scene right at the front of the movie. And it's got more wood than a lumber yard, okay? It's so wooden and so stilted and so unprofessional, I couldn't help but think maybe somebody owed this woman a favor to put them in her movie because it almost doesn't even need to be there. But we see her entering this tomb, trying to figure out this puzzle, and eventually failing and dying, and then we cut ahead to Alabama Channing, who is trying to carry on in her mother's footsteps. She is also, in the spirit of Indiana Jones, a college professor. She looks like she's about 20, so she's either really smart or just bad casting on that part. But she also has lots of friends who are also college professors who are also very early 20-somethings, so don't let that bother you. It's just, that's how it is in this world, I guess. People just get PhDs really fast. And the plot really kicks off when she gets this call from a billionaire investor in Hong Kong to come to China. This guy's not Chinese. He's a white guy. He's American or maybe British, I forget the accent, but he's definitely not Chinese. He calls her over to help him finish the task that her mother had set up so many years ago. She had been looking for this Heart of the Dragon thing. It's this big unfinished business in Alabama Channing's life, and she can come over, and she can bring her friends, and she could finally put her mother's work to rest. When she gets over there, she brings one really annoying friend, which the only good thing you can say about this character is that you won't forget him. All right, he's always got some shtick and he's always picking up dirt and putting it in a test tube, and that's his thing because he's a geologist. And geologist, you know, if you've ever hung out with geologists, they're just always picking up dirt and putting it in test tube. It's really weird. That's why I don't hang out with geologists anymore. But she also brings her other friend who may also be her lesbian girlfriend, or it definitely is a lesbian. They're sort of ambiguous on whether they're in a relationship or not. And they meet up with the billionaire investor who also has hired another person to help out with this quest. And this character is very heavily influenced, at least in my opinion, by the Uncharted character Nathan Drake. His name is Nathan Carter. Again, if you didn't need that nail hit on the head already just by how he is, the sort of scoundrel guy who's going around the world and stealing artifacts, but ultimately he has a heart of gold even though he's willing to break the rules. That character, they named him Nathan Carter just so you, wouldn't miss. that they had played Uncharted at some point, and they really like that character. He's maybe one of the funner characters in the movie. Alabama Channing is not bad, all right? The actress that plays her does okay, but just the nature of sort of this guy who's willing to break the rules, but not too far. You know, he's sort of the lovable scoundrel Han Solo type. You know, a lot more Harrison Ford characters influencing this movie. It ends up being the focal point of the fun of the movie, and they go on this quest together. Along the way, they meet this band of Chinese nationals who are also after the same artifact, but to like unify the country. It's a weird thread of a plot that ultimately carries through to the end of the movie, but feels like it doesn't make any sense. Like, China is one country now. It has been unified. It's doing pretty well in the world. I don't know what you guys need this special artifact to do, and I don't know why you're just hanging out in the forest looking for it, trying to bring China back together. But yay, China, they get their artifact back in the end. Spoilers, Alabama Channing wins and the day is saved. There's the very predictable millionaire turning bad. There's the slightly less predictable millionaire is in a relationship with the reporter who he hired to come out and help them out chronicling the expedition, and then she gets killed, and they never explain any of that. But that's just sort of set dressing. We get into the main tomb. They go hunting around, and the big difference, I would say, between Tomb Raider and this movie is how the fighting goes. Because in Tomb Raider, your classic weapons are arrows and then guns, right? And even in the poster for Tomb Invader, they drew that same arrow through the text so you would get the visual similarity in case you were too dumb to put the words Tomb Invader together with Tomb Raider. They made sure you saw that arrow, but there's actually no bow and arrows in this movie at all. Not one single one. There's also no guns. Everybody in this movie was kung fu fighting, or karate fighting possibly. I'm not smart enough to tell the difference, but there's a lot of martial arts action, which is fine if you're good at martial arts action. This was sort of more along the lines of like Netflix's Iron Fist kind of martial arts stuff. It was not top notch. It wasn't terrible, okay? I don't want to dunk on this too bad. It was passable martial arts action, but there's a lot of it. They stop about every 20 minutes to have another martial arts fight scene, and also to talk for a while, because you got to pad the movie out to an hour and a half. Ultimately, I felt like the movie was competent, but my takeaway from it was that it was not fun in the way that I am sometimes looking for an Asylum film to be fun. There are 3 different buckets for Asylum films to go in. There are the unwatchably terrible, okay, like Asteroid vs. Earth. There are the just, I mean, they're still bad, but they're hilarious and fun to watch, like Sharknado 3 and Three-Headed Shark Attack and those flavor movies. And then there are the movies where they do a pretty good job. Like, there's not a huge amount of stuff to really poke fun at and laugh at, but it's just sort of bland. And this movie goes in the bland bucket for me. It's acceptable. It works fine as a TV movie, and in my mind, that is a failure for an Asylum film. I don't want a movie that works fine. I don't want a movie that's okay and I can't really sort of make fun of it. I want a movie that's, you know, I want three-headed sharks and stuff. But this one does okay. I cannot give it any major dings other than the obvious things, like the acting is the actors that they could afford, so kinda subpar. The special effects are not hugely prevalent here, but when they do occur, they're kind of obvious. They use them for like doors going up in this temple that they end up invading, because obviously there is a temple invasion scene, and that works out pretty well. The idea of finding traps and traps going off comes up a little more often than you would like, but it doesn't overstay its welcome too much. So, that's what I think about Tomb Invader. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. And that's disappointing to me. I want it to be balls to the wall weird, and it was just okay. I will say, in this movie's defense, there was one scene that I actually really enjoyed, and it was the scene where Alabama Channing is talking about her motivations for doing what she wanted to do, and the things that she went through as a child, and why, her mother meant so much to her, and how that now that she's grown up, why she's followed in her mother's footsteps. It's very obvious sort of parental death and, trauma stuff, but it's pretty well acted and it's pretty well written, and I thought that it gave a certain amount of pathos to a character that otherwise would have kind of just been completely flat. She's still pretty flat, but I thought that scene was maybe one of the highlights of the movie, and I really enjoyed watching that. So, that's Tomb Raider. Not Tomb Raider, you guys. That's Tomb Invader. And that's what I think about it. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and we will see you guys next time with more Asylum goodness. Take care, y'all.